This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
DPS, how are you today?
I'm well, Mark. Good morning and happy daylight savings time.
Thank you. Which is always, you always feel like it's a gift, don't you?
Well, yeah, depending on the time of year.
Well, yes, this time is always good. When you lose it, it's not so good. But I'll take it and welcome and good to see you. And we were just laughing before we started this that we have, one of the things that is not only addictive to being a trial lawyer, but is also one of the more enjoyable things is when you have a witness and you have something that the witness either does or doesn't know about, and you get to confront the witness with that. For a trial lawyer on cross, that is kind of the holy grail. And Gary found something today that I had not seen before. And of course, we're talking about the recusal motion in Georgia, right? Gary?
Yeah.
How'd you stumble upon this little nugget?
Well, we when we started our day today, we were a little lacking in video clips, which the fans seem to really enjoy. So I was searching around trying to find some clips from the case, and I was searching for names of lawyers, frankly, and I stumbled upon this one buried pretty deep in Twitter. I had almost stopped searching, and I came across this gem, and I was stunned. I couldn't have been happier. So let's go ahead and check this one out. This is a reading of the text messages from Nathan Wade to Fani Willis.
And by the way, the participants this is Trump's lawyer, Steve Sato, and I believe Wade is on the stand, correct?
Correct. And Fani is in the gallery looking not too pleased, but let's see.
Yeah.
I'd like to read to the court the text messages between Mr. Nathan Wade and his lover, Fani Willis. Dear Fani, I like big butts, and I cannot lie. My oath of brothers can't deny. When my Fanny walks in with that fat ass, I want to make it rain with her campaign cash. I noticed that her butt was stuffed deep in the jeans she was wearing. I am hooked, and I can't stop staring. Oh, Fani, I want to get with you and take your picture. My homeboys tried to warn me, but that big-ass butt you got makes me so horny. Fanny got back.
How this is not led Twitter is just beyond me. And how this is one of those things where you have to keep a straight face when you're doing it.
Yeah.
But I bet you if we had Steve on here right now, Steve would admit it's one of his top 10 favorite crosses.
People love to tweet us stuff that they think is pertinent to the show. And we've been talking Fani Willis and Nathan Wade for 5 or 6 weeks now. And the fact that wasn't tweeted to either of us and I had to find it, deep in Twitter is amazing to me.
Yeah. Could you do that one more time? I just think I have to hear it one more time. And I would, if somebody who's listening can somehow take this and put it to song, we might actually entertain that as the theme song for the show.
Maybe.
I'd like to read to the court the text messages between Mr. Nathan Wade and his lover, Fani Willis. Dear Fanny, I like big butts, and I cannot lie. My oath of brothers can't deny. When my Fanny walks in with that fat ass, I want to make it rain with her campaign cash. I noticed that her butt was stuffed deep in the jeans she was wearing. I am hooked, and I can't stop staring. Oh, Fani, I want to get with you and take your picture. My homeboys tried to warn me, but that big-ass butt you got makes me so horny. Fanny got back.
I'm going to take a wild guess here, and I'm going to speculate that the provenance of and by the way, this goes to one of my standard rules, which you've heard 8,000 times, Gary, is that it's always the ex-wife or the ex-employee who will do you in. And I'm going to guess that the provenance of this was the divorce case with the ex-wife. Just a guess. I don't know. I have no inside information. I haven't done any research on it, but I'm going to bet that that's where that text came from that divorce case.
Yeah, I would call that an educated guess. That is, while like you said, you have no inside information, you have the history to inform you. And I think that is a fairly safe assumption to make.
Okay. And by the way, if you're doing a recusal motion, and for every talking head who keeps saying that there is no appearance of conflict, there is no actual conflict, or that the standard is an actual conflict and not an appearance of conflict, the fact that she testified that the cash she got was from her campaign account, and that was left, and maybe it wasn't, and I just haven't seen it. I've got a day job, so I can't watch, endless hours of court testimony. But the fact that then the special prosecutor is basically doing a rap about the campaign cash and her ass, to me, this judge, as painful as it might be for him to have to recuse his ex-worker direct report, whatever you want to characterize her, aka Fani Willis, to me, that puts a cherry on top. I would, if I'm filing a reply brief, I'm going to excerpt that text, and that's going to be the prologue of my reply.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly, the people who are still saying that there's no appearance of impropriety, I can't listen to anymore. I mean, if we've talked about this endlessly about this case. You can despise, you can be the most anti-Trump person in the world, but this is a solid, more than solid recusal motion. And by the way, one of the other things that has happened, once again, I don't want to take a victory lap. It's just, to quote Adam, it can go no other way. I had said early on, as soon as this started unfolding, there was going to be the scrutiny from the various authorities. And lo and behold, what happened in the past week? There has been scrutiny from all levels of the people that oversee her. There have been ethics complaints filed against her in both the county and the state. I mean, it's been unfolding left and right.
Right. And they escaped I believe, the county ethics because she's the state constitutional officer,
correct,
which I think was a good call. But that doesn't get her out of the issues that she's got here. If they had known this was coming, and I don't know how you didn't know this was coming, I don't understand, except, do you have the clip that we played last week of her lawyer?
I'm sure I can find it if you give me a little bit of time here.
Yeah, I was going to say, part of what a lawyer does is you find, or you try to find, or you try to think several steps ahead. You try to consider every possibility. You don't try to dissuade your client from something, but you try to give them options. And one of the options that her lawyer should have given her, one of the options that Wade's lawyer should have given, and by the way, I will give kudos, not knowing anything, to Wade's lawyer in the divorce. He was smart enough, as we have detailed, to have settled that divorce case the day before he was set to testify. That was a smart move. They should have stepped down immediately before all of this played out in the criminal courtroom. It was foreseeable that we would be going there. And if you've got the clip, Gary, of
which one of the clips were you hoping for from last week? I see 5 here. I just want to make sure I pull the right one.
The favorite one where you had astutely pointed out the Post-it, because you had said last week you had a speculation as to what was on the Post-it. At this point, I think what was on that Post-it was somebody sending a Post-it to her lawyer saying, I think we should just cut our losses and concede the recusal. That's what should have been on this Post-it.
Of which was never shown. And all the while, Ms. Willis, facing these costs, has been able to continue to do the work unrelated to this case, which is shown in the fact that Atlanta's murder rate and violent crime rates have decreased while she has been in office.
Look at Steve Sanos.
What was shown through the testimony of all of the witnesses and through the evidence that Your Honor heard was that there wasn't an actual conflict, that the defense failed to provide any sort of actual conflict in relation to Ms. Wade's, the relationship that transpired.
Press pause for 1 second. Gary, that's where I think for next week, I want a contest, extra swag. Besides best comment, best guess as to what was on that Post-it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when we say best guess, I'll give extra points if you can find some humor in there as well, because there's most certainly something on that Post-it that would make a normal person laugh. And you can see that guy kind of takes a double take as he reads it, and he stutters a little bit as he keeps going. We can watch the end of the clip if you so desire.
Yes.
From the relationship between her and Mr. Wade, and that there was absolutely no evidence of a financial benefit that she gained as it relates to the prosecution of this case and the ultimate outcome of the case. The corroboration of all of that is the things that Your Honor is very much aware that she could have, financially benefited from. Stretching out the case, for lack of better words, by the special grand jury recommended that 39 individuals be indicted. But through her sifting through the special grand jury's report and all of the evidence with the team that indicted the case, they only went with 19 of the defendants, which had she gone with all 39, based on the defense counsel's assertions, would have given her the opportunity to certainly find these financial gains that are claimed through the allegations of defense counsel.
Press pause for 1 second, Gary. Do you see where Steve Sadow is on his phone right there?
Yes, I do. So
the second prize for this week is, what do you think and who do you think Steve Sadow was texting?
I'd like to think it was you, but I'm sure it wasn't.
Anyway, let's so look.
I think based on that clip and on the talk of financial benefit, we might want to maybe transition now into some of the testimony that was given about Nathan Wade and his billing hours. What do you think about that?
Well, and I think, let's play it and then go. I'll comment after.
We were reviewing the billing.
I'm sorry, just to set it up. This is Ashley Merchant, who is testifying to the Georgia Senate about the issue of Nathan Wade's billing in the case, working under Fani Willis, and the invoices that he submitted that had to be approved by Fani, and then he was paid out as a result of that. So,
and by the way, you want to talk about a actual conflict of interest? Let me set this up. Ashley Merchant is the lawyer for Mike Roman, who's the one who was texting with Bradley, who was the former law partner and erstwhile lawyer for Wade. And Bradley had laid this all out.
Well, should we maybe start with the clip we have of some of their texts being read, and then we can get to the Wade billing?
Absolutely, because then you're going to see why I'm going to lay out for you what an actual conflict actually is.
Absolutely. All right. This is some of what we alluded to, and we tweeted the link to that Megyn Kelly show where some of the text between Merchant, who is a defense attorney, was conversing with Bradley, who, if you haven't been listening week in and week out, was a former law partner of Nathan Wade and represented him in his divorce.
Bradley, who we now know from Defense Exhibit 39, has been texting with Ms. Merchant for a number of months. This is not the first time. This is months within the communications between the two. Mr. Bradley says, absolutely. Now, absolutely is not a speculative word. That's not speculation. That's a definitive statement. And Bradley then, unprompted, says this, and unprompted is important. It started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton. It goes on, Ms. Merchant says, she liked it started when she left the DA's office with the appropriate emoji or whatever one would call it to say it was liked. And then
I'll just pause for a second here and say that when he says it started, he's discussing the relationship between Fani and Nathan Wade. He is unprompted saying that their relationship began when she was a judge, so long before she became the DA and long before when they testified to their relationship starting.
It filed declarations. So not only testified, but filed declarations.
Right.
So both documentary evidence provided to the court and testimony under oath in court.
Right. Okay. Let's finish up here.
Mr. Bradley say they met at the municipal court CLE conference. Again, unprompted. He's now definitively telling Ms. Merchant when this relationship started. Ms. Merchant says, that's what I figured when he was married. And then Ms. Merchant says, and we're now talking about a couple hours later, she texts and says, upon information and relief, Willis and Wade met while both were serving as magistrate judges and began a romantic relationship at that time. And Mr. Bradley responds, no, municipal court. Thank you. Doesn't say it didn't start then. He doesn't suggest.
So that's just a portion of it. And for those who haven't been listening week in and week out, or maybe don't remember last week's episode, there was another portion in there where Merchant was questioning Bradley about whether or not she should be subpoenaing the security team that is assigned to Fani Willis. And Bradley corrected her and said, no, you need to subpoena the team from when she first started as DA, because the new people won't know when it started. But that team, the people from the past, will have that information. And
that was before, that was the text messages when Bradley got on the stand. And I might have asked him, when did you develop retrograde amnesia? Because you apparently have absolutely no ability to remember anything or any that you engaged in with me, meaning Ashley Merchant. Also, one of the little nuggets here is Fani Willis, if it's true that she reviewed the billing records and that the billing records, which we're going to go into, show that he was block billing or billing 24 hours in a day, that's your conflict. And you don't need to go any farther. So let's go there.
Let's do it.
We were reviewing the billing practices, the contracts that the various outside counsel had, and I pulled up here one section of Mr. Wade's bill for the really early on in his involvement in the case. As I recall, it began on November 1st of 21, so this would be out of his first bill. I see on November 5th, prepare case for pretrial, 24 hours on one day. What do you make of that?
I thought it was astonishing that, you didn't sleep for 24 hours. I've been to trial. I'm sorry. I've been to trial and had to work long hours, but 24 straight. But we did question him about that at the hearing, and he said that that's when it was concluded. So how he explained it was November 5th is when the work was concluded. And so he had done that work up until then, and that he only billed when it was concluded. So he said that the 24 hours, who knows when it spanned, but that how he billed
would have had to be between November 3rd and November 5th, though, right? So it had to be on the 4th and the 5th, 12 hours a day?
It had to be.
At least.
And, the other thing that I noticed with this is prepared cases for pretrial. At this point, it says anti-corruption unit. His two law partners are the conflict lawyers for the anti-corruption unit. So you've got it's like my husband couldn't represent someone who's adverse to me. Like my husband is my law partner. He can't be doing privilege review on a case I'm prosecuting. So he's consulting on anti-corruption cases for the DA's office, where his two law partners are doing the privilege review at the same time. That plus the 24 hours are the two things that really struck out to me.
So, but the only role he had was this prosecution of this election fraud.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the only role.
Okay. So when it says anti-corruption, that's the corruption we're looking at, election interference.
Yes, he's never worked on any other case.
All right. Let's see that other bill there, Senator Dolezal. All right, so here's another one, if you can see that okay. This is the one we put up earlier. It looks to be much more specific date-wise anyway than just those 24-hour chunks like that. Okay.
Right. It's more specific, but it doesn't say what, just for example, team meeting and argument prep. Argument prep for what? Normally when we do bills, we would say, argue motion to dismiss or argue whatever the motion is. Research. What are you researching? Researching statutory privilege, whatever it is.
Yeah. Now this one, he shows date ranges when it's over multiple days, like down at the bottom, 426 to 427, 18 hours.
Right.
If I'm reading that right, or 16 hours.
Hold on, Gary. Hold that for a sec, because you see there, where the date ranges, that's where he's got 24 hours for the 19th through the 21st. So apparently there he's specifying a date range, whereas in the other instance, it's just one date, which was November.
Right. Absolutely. It's sloppy all around, but he is being inconsistent for sure.
And for those who aren't watching on YouTube, stamped in big red letters, like it looks like, and I'm just guessing here, that it's one of those handheld stamps that you would kind of ink stamp implant on it, is okay to pay.
And then beneath it is what I believe to be FANI'S signature. There is a signature, and it reads to me like it looks like it's Fani Willis. So, yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That is where you've got a conflict. That is the definition of an actual conflict under virtually any ethics rules that I can conceive of. That's not an appearance of conflict. That is an actual conflict.
And for anyone who is not watching on YouTube, I do encourage you to go check it out, subscribe, youtube.com/reasonable doubt podcast. But we'll go ahead and finish up this clip here.
But on that previous one, he just has one date, 24 hours.
Yes.
Okay. And you say these are approved by Fani Willis. By contract, she has to approve these billings.
Yes, she does. Okay. And those are approved by her. So if there were any questions, and as a lawyer, when we submit bills to clients, they regularly question, and I know when I've done appointed work, they regularly question that as well. You have to list exactly what you're in court for, exactly what you're drafting. You can't just say prepared cases. You've got to say, what did you prepare? What did you draft? So, the county, in Cobb County, for example, they make you actually attach motions. If you do like an appeal or something and you're billing for that, you have to actually attach it to prove that you did the work.
Right.
For all of the talk around this case and for all of the bobbleheads who are commenting on this case, the fact that I shouldn't say nobody, that I rarely see anybody getting into the weeds on this, and while they are opining that there's no conflict, I think is unforgivable.
Hey, everybody, what's up? It's Gina Grad. And when you're searching for the perfect piece of jewelry, it can be hard to find a brand you trust. Alex and Ani has been creating meaningful jewelry for over 20 years, designing pieces that connect you with all of life's important moments. With an emphasis on value, there is truly something for everyone. They've recently launched their everyday collection. I could not love it more. These pieces are made from stainless steel and an advanced water-resistant plating method that doesn't tarnish. It has the look of real gold. It's beautiful. I love these pieces because they feel so classic, but they have so much versatility. Alex and Ani are also featuring some gorgeous pieces that I have right here, like Black Lotus, this gorgeous Black Lotus charm necklace, and their Stay Wild pendant, and their Wings of Protection necklace that have a classic and vintage feel. See that? And of course, you can't forget their signature bangle bracelets, which I'm also wearing. And I have a lot of their stuff. I have the numerology bracelets. I have the hula dancer to commemorate a meaningful trip I took to Hawaii. From classic to bold statement pieces, Alex and Ani makes it easy to sprinkle your personality into each piece or make a truly meaningful gift for someone you care about. Meanwhile, you can take comfort in knowing that you're shopping with a socially conscious brand, as Alex and Ani has donated over $60 million to nonprofits worldwide, connecting fashion and philanthropy in an easy, fun, affordable way. Right now, Alex and Ani is offering our audience 20% off. So check their gorgeous collection out at alexandani.com and use the promo code MIDAS. That's MEIDAS at alexandani.com. Use that promo code at checkout for 20% off your order. Come and get something beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this transitions nicely into our next clip, referring to Merchant testifying about how outside counsels are appointed and paid. So let's check this one out.
Statute.
So they don't have to comply with our state statute.
That they have, once they're awarded the budget, they can use that budget. However, how their motion, and I'm happy to send the motion. It's public record, but how their motion argued it was, if they get $5 million, they can pay that to one person if they want, as long as because the voters authorized her to do that. So the county, their position is the county authorizes a budget and she can pretty much has inherent authority to do it however.
Even though she specifically asked for the money to prosecute backlogged homicide cases in Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. What's your opinion on that? You think the statute or county procedures permit that?
No, I do not. And I cited several different county ordinances. So when I read the statute, when I read 15-1820, and it makes sense. It makes sense intuitively. As lawyers, when we bill, someone is reviewing our bills. I mean that's just that's the process. If you're in private practice, your client authorizes your bills. If you're doing public defense, which I've done public defense, I've done appointed work. The governing agency approves my bills, and they will cut them. They will regularly cut them if they're too high. And so there's always some type of budgetary authority that's reviewing everything. So I thought it was very strange that in this case there isn't one, and that there's really no oversight because it is public money. So I know that it's an elected official, but it's still public money. And I don't live in Fulton County, so it would probably aggravate me more if I did.
So we have the code section up that you're referencing for prosecuting attorneys getting additional personnel. That's what Mr. Wade would qualify as, correct?
Yes. So under B, that's the section that authorizes the appointment of special counsel. And it says the manner and amount of compensation to be paid is fixed by either local act or by the district attorney with the approval of the county. And so that's where that's our argument that this was not appropriate expenditure because it did not have county approval.
So our state law requires if a DA is going to go seek outside counsel, I'm going to call them, that must be approved by the county commission.
Yes, without a doubt.
And that's exactly, we've mentioned this, Gary, in previous episodes. We knew this is where they were headed. The fact that there was no oversight here. And by the way, when she talks about public defense, one of the reasons 38 years ago that I stopped doing indigent defense for pay was I remember vividly getting a check from the county as a young lawyer after I had done a preliminary hearing for 2 days and I was doing indigent defense. It's a great kind of a method to get experience, felony trial experience. I remember doing a 2-day prelim and getting the magnificent sum of $250 and walking into my father's office and saying, I think my mechanic gets paid more per hour than I do. And decided at that point I would rather do pro bono and not have to go through the hassle of the forms and the jumping through hoops and everything else you have to do in indigent defense. I'd rather just do it pro bono. It doesn't make sense to even go through all this nonsense. And here you have this idea that somehow that he's maintaining, that Wade is maintaining his own private practice while feeding at the trough of the taxpayer funds to prosecute this case. And to have people dismiss it, well, there is a higher calling here. We're going to go after Trump because Trump was involved in an insurrection. Well, to quote the old expression, if you're going to do that, then you better be purer than Caesar's wife in terms of what you're doing. This just reeks, and they're going to, I'll predict it again, they are headed straight for somebody in the state authorities to bring charges here. It's obvious to me.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, it wasn't in that clip there, but from my other research that I've been doing, I know that another part of her testimony was that the other special prosecutors who were brought in on the case made and billed for roughly $100,000. So we're talking about a 700% discrepancy when it comes to Nathan Wade versus someone in a similar role.
And understand something. What Ashley Merchant has done here and what Steve Sada has joined in on. Remember, she filed it at first and she was lambasted for doing that and was I remember at the time people were saying this is ridiculous, where's her facts, where's her evidence, blah, blah, blah. Well, she has more than shown. And kudos to her for doing the job that a zealous defense attorney does, because she has opened up a Pandora's box here. And whether you like it or not, that is what a defense lawyer is supposed to do.
Absolutely. And I believe there's one more instance that we have a video of that we can kind of wrap up on here, which is unrelated to what we've been talking about. But to your point of a zealous defense, she found another instance where she could contradict Fani's testimony. Fani was asked whether or not she had been to the White House before the indictment against Donald Trump was filed. And she said that she had not been to the White House. And let's just check out this here.
One of the other things I did was I did a open records for the White House access, and we had records that Ms. Willis and the mayor of Atlanta were at meeting with the vice president.
Okay, and so this is the access history. How does that work? The White House keeps records of anybody that comes in and has any kind of official meeting for sure?
Yes. And my understanding is it's highly regulated who can access the White House. And so you have to apply in person or apply ahead of time. And then they give you a time when you make the appointment, and they give you a time when you're allowed to be in and when you have to be out by. And they track you. And I mean, that makes sense. They don't want anybody, lingering in the White House. But they keep that. And so they're called WAVE records, I believe is what they're called. And I'm not sure what that's an acronym for, but they're publicly available. They're open records.
And this record that's shown on the screen shows Fani Willis was a visitor with V. POTUS. I presume that's Vice President of the United States.
Yes, it was.
And what was the date of that back in, was that February sometime of 23?
February 28, 2023.
Is that before the indictment?
Yes.
Okay. Any further explanation of why Ms. Willis was meeting with the Vice President of the United States?
No. I know Dexter Bonds, and I believe that's the same one that Mr. I think it's Dixon, the mayor of Atlanta was also there.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. We've been going through this for a while. Let's take
certainly, that one is less damning than some of the financial stuff that we have been talking about, but it's another instance of her testifying to something and then being discovered to be in error on that. And, I guess people could poo-poo it and say, so she met with the vice president, what's the big deal? But, it's hard to imagine that a visit to the White House is something that would slip your mind. That's kind of a monumental type of thing, even for someone in her job.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what Judge McAfee rules here. By the way, I think also this week, if I'm not mistaken, somebody filed against him to challenge him, the judge who is presiding over this case, which is interesting to me because I think from both sides of the political spectrum, most people have been very complimentary of how he has conducted this hearing and his temperament and everything else. And yet he's still facing a challenge for his job from somebody. And we'll see what happens there as well.
Absolutely. We'll be watching. Mark, thank you very much for your time on this Sunday, as always. We look forward to seeing you later this week and next weekend for another great episode.
Did we get a comment of the week? Did I send you a comment of the week?
We had one from last week that we found midweek, but I don't know if we have a new one. I haven't.
The one? Have we given them a shout out from the one last week?
No, but I can pull it up right here. I'll find it in just 1 second here because I was the one who found
it. And I noticed the swag with, you've got a very good system here, and you put the printout of the address, and then that's how it goes out, right?
Well, yeah, kudos to your staff, specifically Sarnell, who has been very helpful. I just kind of, give her all the particulars and leave it on her desk, and she takes it from there. Our comment last week was from someone who goes by the name of Brendan, or maybe it's Brendan. And they were just very complimentary of how you're handling the show, Mark. And I thought it was nice. So we shipped them out a sweatshirt as a surprise. And they've actually gotten back to me. A few different people who've gotten sweatshirts have gotten back to me, and they're very thankful and they're really enjoying their swag. And I can tell you that I've seen more than a few people around the office wearing them as well. I've had more than a few people stop me and ask me if they could get in on it. So you come by Engine Company, you might see a Reasonable Doubt sweatshirt or two bouncing around.
I love it. Thanks, Gary. It's always great to see you on a Sunday.
You as well, Mark. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.